Hi there, and welcome back to the History of Fleetwood Mac. I'm Anita. Today we're going to get into a little weird side quest type thing going on where I go over calendars. I was going through some other stuff and I realized that I have quite the handful of calendars. And I thought that was kind of odd, so I thought it worthy of its own video because there's a nice enough pile here to be had. Also, initially, the first calendar that I'll speak of, to most of you who know, this was a pretty obscure item and really a highly sought after Stevie Nicks collectible in the beginning, not the beginning of time, but the beginning of people who were collecting. There's not really a fan club, but Herbert Worthington, her photographer, who did the album cover for Rumors and Belladonna and most photos of Stevie Nicks that you're familiar with. This item had been made available by Herbert Worthington, who had also promised at some point to make a coffee table book, which unfortunately never happened. But for the longest time, this initial calendar was just really a highly sought after collectible, and you were a Stevie Nicks fan if you had something like this in your possession. So I'm going to start off with that indeed, which is the 1985 Herbert Worthington Stevie Nicks calendar. Now, prior to 1985, I know that there have been some things I've seen on eBay. Most recently, a really cool item that was from Tusk. Two different Tusk things. One, it appears that there's a paper calendar that has a photo taken by Norman Seeff from the Tusk outtakes. And then underneath it, it has like January, February, March, April, May. So it's just a block picture and then all the photos. And then I also saw recently on eBay a tapestry that had a different photo from a different session by possibly Neil Preston. But I'm not sure about its authenticity though, but it was a really cool item. To me, it looked like something we kind of won at the fair or something like that in the 70s, something like a homegrown type of item. But those are the only two other calendars I've seen in circulation of any kind that were prior to this 1985 official calendar. I'm sure that magazines and such like that, in fact, I know that they did, Cream and such, would have like a calendar for a month where maybe they put the band photo, it's like a fold out page, and there'd be the band photo and then the calendar for that month. But a 12-month calendar, I believe, to my knowledge, this would be the first really technically official thing. So again, this came out in 1984 for 1985. And, right off the bat, it was just really remarkable. I mean, this photo right here alone, we'd seen a similar pose for, now I just went and forgot. Gosh darn it. One of Stevie Nicks's singles. I just went over all my singles and all my LPs, and I think that would be fresh in my brain. I think Stop Dragging My Heart Around. We call it the airplane pose, where she's kind of tilted more on the side. And I think that was this outtake, or outtakes from the Belladonna cover. But this picture, definitely separate, definitely unusual, so already amazing on the cover. Inside, we had it went right into it with yet another photo, which we know as the not promotional, but the photo used on the Edge of 17 12-inch promo. So that had been kind of in circulation, if you will. I mean, if you didn't have that, but you had the calendar, it was kind of cool because it's the same size actually as the album. So that was kind of neat. Then this we would see later, or no, we would have seen by this time as the stand back 45 cover and used for the Wild Heart, because 85, so we're well into Wild Heart. This session for March would have been, trying to think of where this was in circulation. There are quite a few photos out now, but I think maybe just some magazines and such might have had a couple of these. There's a few of them where, it took me years to realize this was a snakeskin background. Stevie Nicks had tinted these photos, and took me a long time to realize that. But I know that a few of these were out, but again, this was unusual. And I want to say this is one of the first ones where Herbert talked about how he he would identify photos and mark them so that he knew they were his and people weren't duplicating them because of certain dots he'd put in Stevie's eyes. This was like in the 2000s, so we'll talk about this more extensively later. But right now in this one, you see there's like what we call the double moons. And it's just the lighting, of course. But there are some moments here, which I haven't come across yet, where Herbert clearly has put in kind of his mark, if you will. He's been known to put in moons, hearts, double moons, and birds in Stevie's eyes. And here it's just kind of the single. They kind of look like hearts, but I'll have a better example for you. So moving into this photo for April. And again, like I said, when these came out, these were really, really unique. You know, we've seen some of them, but in '85, it was just so cool to have them, you know, the size and you know, maybe he had a different outtake or something like that, so something different. It was pretty amazing. I was unable to get mine until quite some time later, and if you didn't get them at the time, when the internet was getting prominent and eBay was coming along and Amazon auctions, Amazon used to have an auction house. They were very expensive. These are like $100, so people still weren't really having them in their collection much. So you either had to get it when it came out, you know, in 1984 into '85, or you're kind of out of luck. So this is October, appropriately, and another beautiful shot. And December. And this one wraps up with some thank yous. And this was Herbert stationary photos for quite some time. I was looking at the names because I hadn't looked in a while, and I want to say he thanks Marty for all of her hard work. And if I'm not mistaken, that might be the person who did this work on the outside. This is a picture of Herbert Worthington, Stevie Nicks, and Stevie Nicks' best friend Robin. And then these were numbered. So I don't know how many total because it doesn't say out of how many, but this one's numbered 1,424. So I don't know if that's a low number because I don't recall what they were numbered to. I want to say 5,000, but I could be mistaken. And then there's a nice little write-up on the back by Lance D. Blumen, who I do not know who that is. So that was pretty cool. So then, you know, it was a bummer because that was '85. So then we had '86, '87, '88, '89. Nothing more happened. And the correspondence with Herbert Worthington, I wasn't able to really correspond with him. I did. I got some letters when I was, you know, that young and around those years. But people who were more in correspondence with Herbert Worthington, it seemed the intention was always to continue making calendars, but he just didn't. So it was a neat surprise when the next calendar that came up, which this one is kind of obscure, this one is falling apart. So it's gonna be kind of hard to show. But this was a Rumors 1990 calendar, courtesy of Book City Collectibles, The Concert Company, photos by Jim Welander and Lisa Sergis. Now, Book City Collectibles, ironically, was a gentleman I ended up buying a lot of photos from. He had a store on Hollywood Boulevard called Book City Collectibles, and he had a ton of Stevie Nicks photography. And Judy Wong was, I guess, a personal friend of his. I knew who Judy Wong was, but I didn't know who she was. So I would be at that store a couple times, and I know that I found out in hindsight that I had met her a couple times, but I didn't realize that that's who I was talking to. And when he was finally going out of business, I was able to obtain for a reachable sum a large amount of photographs, many of which had been from the personal collection of both he and Judy Wong. Judy Wong, of course, who was the assistant to Fleetwood Mac for many, many years and a very dear friend to the band, and somebody we lost really early and very sadly. So, but these photos, I think that this is going to be really hard. I'm so sorry. These photos were taken by all sorts of different people, but definitely Jim was one of them. It's got this kind of, like a tablet, and I'm trying really hard to keep it together, but it's so worn. I remember being at the wharf in San Francisco, and at the end of the wharf in San Francisco, at the end of the Pier 39, there was a movie and music memorabilia shop, and they had this calendar up in the store, and I thought it was like a store purchasable calendar, and I begged them to buy that calendar. No such luck. So years later, I came across it, and then I was kind of putting two and two together about who made this and how it came to be, and it was almost like a fan club type made calendar. Now it's going out of order because it goes like January, March, May, July, and then you flip it over, and then the other pictures are on the other side. So that's what you're seeing here. See, now the back end just came off, which is unfortunate. I mean, I've had it for a really long time, and this is 1990. And I don't think it is what you would call an official calendar. I think it was part of a kind of a fan club type thing, and you had to know somebody to order it, or I don't recall it being an item in the back of Rolling Stone, nothing. And I know not all these photos are just by the two people mentioned. I mean, I don't think that's a Herbert, but I know it's not the two people mentioned. So, and credits aren't given in here for photographs. So that's why I don't think it was a legitimate, this is definitely a Neil Preston, if I'm not mistaken, photo. No. Yeah. Neil or Sam Emerson? Neil. Got to get better at this if I'm going to keep doing these videos. So then you would flip it over. There was a rumors convention, which was like a fan club type thing put together, which maybe will be a video on its own because I have quite a bit of stuff from that. And perhaps this is something you could buy there or that you got there. What with the font at the top that kind of matches the poster and the little press kit type thing I have of it. So I know that some people responsible for rumors, the rumors convention, are still active in the community. So probably I'll get corrected. I probably maybe should have done a bit more research on this part, but I just always had it as a really neat little calendar. So lots of dates in here, lots of markings about certain dates for Fleetwood Mac type things, all on the bottom here. Pertinent dates like when albums came out, certain band members' birthdays, etc. There's some really nice photographs in here. That one was definitely I'm going to say definitely an Emerson. I'm confident that's Sam Emerson, because I know there's a big poster of it as well. So yeah, so that was a 1990 calendar. So that's what she had up until 1990. Then the 90s rolled around, and what? All of a sudden, we had this out of completely nowhere. We had these coming out. This was Oliver Books, which was a company out of England. As you can see, they're about as big as the other one. So to save time, I'm not going to show you page by page like this one, but instead I'll just show you the back. And you can see all the photos, hopefully clearly. So that was the calendar for 1995. I'm either missing, I couldn't find it online, and I think I am, because I think I am missing a 1996, or they didn't come out. It seems like either it's one of the Herbert Worthington calendars I'm missing, or it wasn't produced, or it was one of these that got produced and I'm missing. One or the other, I'm not sure. But we skip 1996 and we go into 1997. Right. And here are the pictures for 1997. This one was kind of cool to have for the as long as you follow video outtake, or video shoot, I should say. In hindsight, when I look at these, I was so excited to get it. I just thought it was so cool that there's this Stevie Nicks poster, well, it's kind of like posters, but calendars. But in hindsight, when I look at some of the pictures, they're kind of like, and then in the 2 years, there's this one and this one, which are almost verbatim. And you mean to tell me, even if there had been a 96 a year in between, you're already reproducing photos in the catalog? This one in the calendar? I keep saying catalog, I don't know why. Very disconcerting. I mean, look at here. I mean, and these weren't cheap at the time either. They were not, it didn't matter, but they weren't cheap. And they were from the UK, so it was not only the cost of them, but it was shipping. So that was kind of a bit discouraging. Then we go into 1998, and we had yet another one with this cover. Now, this is pretty cool to have this large photo. This was nice. And these are the photos out of this calendar. Not quite as bad with the duplication. In fact, I can't see any right off the bat that are duplicates from the year prior, which is nice. Not that there aren't, I'm just saying. Yeah, so that was 1998. Now, funny enough, 1998 was full of calendars because we had this come out, and then Stevie Nicks was on tour in 1998 for Enchanted, and her tour book ended up being a calendar, which is why it was just kind of a weird thing, like I said, that there are a lot of calendars. Because it seemed like there are many, but when I finish, you'll be like, oh yeah, there are a lot of calendars. So her tour book came out in 1998. Besides, this is a really cool picture. It folds out all the way too. Which I don't do very often. It is two separate, but I mean, it's mostly the same photo, and it's just cool when you put it all the way out like that. But it has, and Tour Books is going to be its own separate video, so I don't want to give all this away, but midway through it, it turns into a calendar. Which I just thought was very strange. Kind of a lazy calendar, not gonna lie. I mean, it was really cool that we saw these shots. I mean, these were pretty cool, but it was a very seemingly quickly put together calendar. Tour book, I should say, altogether. Supposedly these were shots around Stevie's house, things she has hanging up in her home. So it was also meant to be a glimpse into her home and, you know, the things that mattered to her that she had up on the wall, which was cool. Her little recording area, which we'd see later, actually in the same year, we'd see the photo of her and Lori around here with Jessica. There's some photos that was like in People magazine in 1998, so more photos around this. I just remember it because this photo is there in the background. And then Stevie and her brother, Chris. Photo definitely by Herbert Worthington. So yeah, so that was the Enchanted tour book, which, like I said, became a calendar. So it was kind of a calendar unto itself. Also in 1998 was a very interesting calendar that I obtained quite a few copies from Stevie Nicks' mother's store, Silver Springs, Barbara Nicks' store, Silver Springs, in, now I just forgot the name of the place, in Arizona. And yeah, it was put together. This is, again, a video deserving of its own. This calendar was put together by, she names herself here in this one, I think it was Brittany Marks, but she goes by many other names. She's a Stevie Nicks impersonator, and she has a book out, which I don't have the book. I had borrowed it from a friend, and I copied it. I'm pretty sure I still have that, but again, that deserves a video all its own because it's not scandalous anymore. It's dumb, but she was a piece of work, and she unfortunately had really befriended the Nicks family. Seemed to have gotten on with them, but then did some shady stuff. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if she ever got convicted exactly of anything, so I can't really completely, pass judgment. But she had a bad falling out, and the family, kind of put her to the curb. But she had come out with this calendar, and it was, as you can see, protect the animals, and all monies inside were to be given to a no-kill animal shelter. This as well is set to fall apart, so I'm going to kind of show you as best I can. Some of these people are complete strangers. Other people are friends. You'll see. There's a couple points, marked in the calendar. But it's people with their pets. So here, Karen Hall, I want to say she's a musician. This thing's gonna fall apart too. But at the bottom is the first time you see the picture. That is Brittany with Stevie's brother Christopher, and the pets. Except she was a Stevie Nicks impersonator, very very popular in Arizona. A lot of gigs, and became very close to Stevie Nicks' mother and father, but mostly the mom. Mom really took a shine to her. I should just let this one fall apart because thankfully I still have one, which is fine, completely put together. But they're hard to come by, so I've always tried to keep it as put together as possible. But now, does this one have anybody here? Yeah, so I think that some of those, the top picture here is Brittany here. This dog saved this kid's life. It was in the paper, in the Arizona paper. And it was a dog that was a rescue animal, so it was proving a point that it was, definitely adopt, don't buy. So then finally in September, we get the more Nick's related thing. This is little Jessica here. Really adorable pictures of her. Her little Stevie skirt there, and that's freaking adorable. Oops, sorry about that. Not sure who this is. Oh, that's bad, what fell. Really nice one, Stevie's mom here. And then lastly, the real reason, the nicest reason to have the calendar is the one of Stevie and her dog. So that was yet another 1998 calendar. So we had 3 calendars for 1998. Oh, that was a big mess on the ground. That was a whole bunch of scrapbook and, oh my goodness. We come up again, they came out with another calendar in 1999, and we're getting almost to the end of calendars for them, which I wish they had kept coming out with them. Again, there's a few repeats, but this one is sealed, so I especially can't open it, but I'll show you the photos. This one had kind of a nicer wear, I would say, of the. I think it's mostly because we were getting some Street Angel and then these brunette pictures, but like that's a duplicate already, I can tell you. That was kind of cool. It just had the photo from the dance. So this one's pretty cool. 2020, we had what I believe to be the last calendar that Oliver Books put out. Again, duplicate photos. I mean, you can just tell. I don't even have to pick up the other one. You can probably already see. I mean, I respect that probably not everybody got every year, but I mean, people like Madonna were having one. I mean, it's consistent. Madonna was having one. I know, like Bjork, Tori Amos, they're having them for years put out. So Stevie Nicks is really, real special to it, the fans. And so, having duplicates in any of the calendars was kind of disappointing because we don't get as much merchandise per se as say Madonna or somebody else like that. So is a little bit of a bummer. In 2004, on the second leg of the Say You Will tour, Fleetwood Mac came out with a calendar. I remember finding this, at Christmas time in the malls and such like that. They have all those little calendar kiosks. So I was real happy to see this. This came out from Signatures Network, and it was Fleetwood Mac merchandise from 2003. And I will just kind of go through this quickly. Yeah, the end of 2003 to go with. The problem is that the photos just were very, as were the photos in the tour books, were just very, I don't know. This tour was one of my greatest memories, and I'll bring it up and I'll say it over and over again because I went to a lot of dates on this tour. That said, the merchandising and stuff like that was just very simplistic. Anybody who attended and took photos could have submitted these photos. And I didn't take such great photographs, no doubt about it. So maybe I'm not one of the ones who would have been submitting photos, but there's no studio shots. There's really next to nothing studio wise. And they did studio stuff for Say Will. There's just nothing. There's nothing in the tour books. There might have been like a photo, but there's really not much in any of the tour books. Well, the one tour book, the calendar, or just really much of around that time, 2003, 2004, that they gave us much for studio press photography. And with the perfect opportunity like calendars and tour books, we love that stuff. And this is kind of like a grainy shot. Like can you make that out? Like, no, I'm just not gonna get this light right. But it's a very poor shot. A very poor. It's kind of an action shot of John, but it's just a little discouraging. And then, not one to complain. So then 2007, 2008, we actually got another Herbert Worthington. It was really a surprise, really kind of out of nowhere. To my understanding, Herbert had not had the original artwork for here and inquired with a friend of mine at the time. I don't know why she was, well, it's a long story, but anyway, supposedly he needed a copy of the 1985 calendar to regain this imagery, this artwork to apply in the 2007, 2008, which was supposedly part of why it came out mid-year instead of being a solid year. That's what I heard. That was the rumor. So again, some pretty cool photos in this one, though. So this one, what it did is it started in June of 2007 through May of 2008. Now, where have I gotten here yet? I don't know. So this one, clearly hearts in her eyes. Strange shot. This one is the clearly hearts. I love these shots. All the Street Angel, these shots are just gorgeous. I just love them. Absolutely love them. This is really cute too. Supposedly coming back from vacation at some point. She was just coming back to her house or the office or something. He had said some little blurb he had given about it one time. Gorgeous. And this was really kind of a big deal when it first came out. And this one closes with this cool picture. And then another picture of her and Herbert. Then he did come out with 2009, all the way a proper one, January till all the way through. So January to December situation here. Pages are much thicker. Yeah, we got some of that snakeskin background photos. Another very nice Rock a Little outtake. Stevie and Robin, beautiful photo. Some photos from this session, this sitting, have been circulating lately, which has been really interesting, including this one, but like pivoted and turned a little bit. It's hard to say if it's a whole different shot or not, but it's pretty cool. Now this photo's in, I want to say, I think it's this one exactly, in the Wild Heart Tour book, and she's with several of the girls. She's singled out in this shot. We joke about this photo shoot being the Dexter photo shoot with all the plastic. Maybe people won't find that funny. I don't know. Love this one. Such a cute little profile. And this is just so beautiful. I have some really nice photos from this session as well that are just stunning. And it's so funny because I remember it as on the envelope that he would send out in the 80s and correspondence and such like that. And then it would be the watermark in his letterhead, his paper he used to write letters. So then seeing more photographs that came out of this session was just something else. And it was a really pretty session. And then again, the picture that was in the back of the first one, this photo you can barely make out, but this was a Rock a Little outtake, where she's, because it was supposed to be, Rock a Little was like from the cradle to the grave kind of thing. So she'd had some shots with a baby, and I forget whose child it was, but it would be cool, a little bit, a few more things could be seen in full. And then just to wrap it up, there's a couple random things. This was a really cool thing. There's a ton of these. I only have a couple. Almost every year, Rhino and a couple other places come out with calendars. I grab them when I can. They're not free. You usually have to get them from record stores. And basically, it's what's going to be coming out in that year by Rhino. And this one in 2016 was the reissue of the Tusk. It was the what's the word I'm looking for? Why I just lose that word. They redone it, remastered it, and made it like, special edition such. So March of 2016 was Tusk, pardon me. And then there might be some other times in here where they're brought up. There might be a date in here, something like that, with a small picture. I think there is. There's one of Warren Zevon, though, which Stevie Nicks is on that album. And I want to say, she's probably down here for her birthday. Seems like one of these had another. Nope, not that one. So that was 2016. And then in 2020, I happened to get another one. And then that one was the year that this Greatest Hits package came out. So it was really neat to have that as a calendar page. But then this one, I'm pretty sure. Or not. I looked through these before and I swore that there was yeah, there is. So in 2020, that album was 40 years old. December 8th, 2020, the Fleetwood Mac live album was 40 years old. So yeah, that was just 40 minutes worth of calendars. I mean, I just thought it was kind of odd. Like I said, I was pulling some stuff out. And I'm like, oh my God, here's a calendar. Here's a calendar here. Maybe I'll do a video on calendars. And then I have a really nice one, a very special one. That a dear friend, an amazing Stevie Nicks fan of the community made. And so, there's a lot to be had. And the funny part is that if you have a calendar, I was doing my homework, and any of the calendars that you have, for example, the 1985 calendar can be reused in 2030, 2041, 2047. I'll be long dead by that time probably, but 2009 calendar can be used in 2026, 2037. Your 1995 calendar can be used in 2034, 2045. So, your old calendars can be recirculated, which I knew that, but I just had never quite realized how many times. And it's funny, it's all based on whether the following year or that year is inclusive of a leap year as to when it can be used again and how many years in between. So I hope you found that interesting. I hope you saw some pictures maybe you hadn't seen. Let me know if you have any of the calendars or if you have more. Was there another Herbert Worthington? Was there another Oliver Books? Was there another Fan Club one? Were there any others that I'm missing, or do you have more of the Rhino ones? I would love to know. Let me know in the comments, and thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Have a great night. Bye.